Welcome back, everybody, to another No More Future. Hopefully, subscribe, like, comment, and share to friends and loved ones to support this channel. Going back to the game, the woman takes a while to formulate her answer, her playful tone suddenly turning a little more serious. Well, you already know the first reason. I just thought it was about time I showed you more of the synthetic project and the technology that supports it. After all, the nonsense that Bradbury person likely spouted at you in my absence yesterday, I figured you might cherish an opportunity to really see what we're doing here. Thoughts of your time spent enduring that man's wicked comments resurfaced in your mind, immediately souring your mood. He really did make so many horrible remarks that you had no reply to, most of which you've managed to temporarily suppress, mind you, but it was pretty exhausting to endure nonetheless. Who knows just how low you could have fallen had your self-control been just a little less strong. We definitely appreciate Mary's attempt to prevent this from ever happening again. Fair point. I suppose I was in dire need of some clarifications. He said all sorts of things yesterday, that my soul might be fake, that my memories might belong to someone else, that there's no way a soul could be ported over to an android body to begin with. Mary rolls her eyes to the ceiling so fast it makes the mag train look like a kid's ride. Not only that, but the contempt on her face is now impossible not to notice. Yep, I figured it'd say crap like that. God, what an asshole. Again, I'm sorry you had to endure that. I really need to stop getting to you so late. It's fine, he didn't hurt me or anything. Not like you didn't try, you barely whisper under your breath. He just really confused me. All that talk about you not being human, about Pandora lying to you about something sinister going on behind the scenes. A load of garbage as far as you can tell, but a worrisome one nonetheless. I mean, he's an FBI agent. He's a Fed. That's how he goes, you know? It's his job. It's in their training to get under one's skin, to make mistakes. That's a good question. What game was that? Was it, I think it was Soma, where you're not really you anymore? I forgot the main theme of the story, but it's about your identity, the human consciousness, or soul in a way. Two different things, but the character you play as is a copy of the original. Okay, going back to the game, is there any truth to what he said? Any chance he might have a point? Mary shakes her head even quicker than she rolled her eyes, a deeply unsettled look on her face. Look, all I'm gonna say is, there's a reason why I'm a professional researcher and he's a professional nuisance. All that man's got are his crackpot conspiracy theories and a penchant for intruding in other people's business and homes. Your friend seems to regard Bradbury rather poorly, to put it gently, and you can't exactly blame her either. That guy's a total jerk, and you don't need a PhD to realize that. I assume that's another reason why you brought me here today. The woman takes a brief break from her huffing and puffing to earnestly smile at you once again. I figured you might have wanted some answers about that guy and his FBI cronies at some point. Maybe someplace safe to talk about it without that rabid dog showing up to mock you midway through. And like I said earlier, you're among friends here. I see. And speaking of friends, hey, it's Natalie. Hey guys, how are you doing? Before either of you could notice her approaching, Natalie's already beaming at both of you from behind Mary's chair, a wide smile on her earnest face. Mary practically jumped out of her seat at her junior's appearance, every hair on her body flaring up at once as she did so. You don't think you've ever seen her this puffy before, truth be told? Well, if I didn't die of a heart attack now, I guess I never will. Oh dear, I didn't scare you that bad, did I? Gosh, why does this always happen? You can't help but laugh at the quaint spectacle before you, even if it is a little mean-spirited. Maybe it's because you've had to endure Natalie's abrupt entrances more often than you could count in the past few days, but you have to admit, it is pretty funny when it happens to others. Anyway, I'm sorry for scaring you guys. I swear I was just trying to say hi. That's alright, Nat. You didn't scare me. Speak for yourself. That was at least 2 of my 9 lives gone. The Siamese words which she seemed to have shared in jest are nonetheless enough to thoroughly confuse you. 9 lives? Does this have to do with the synthetic project or something? The cat laughs off your question with a knowing smile on her face. Of course not. I'm very much still human, thank you. It's just an old saying that was popular back in my days. You wouldn't get it. Right. So, age-related irony is fair game with her. That's good to know at least. It means you can already start planning your vengeance over her, basically calling you a kid, and by God, will it be sweet. As soon as you figure out just how old the scientist really is. Sorry, I just checked if I was recording. Regardless, what brings you here, Nats? Or Nats? No, Nats, yeah. Nettie, I thought you were still busy handling those files I sent you earlier. Actually, I just finished taking care of those. It wasn't that complicated, really. Then I heard from someone that Isaac had come to visit. So I decided to come see you. Wow, that's impressive. I was pretty sure you'd need some more time to sort through all that data. You sure you were not skimping out on work or something? You're pretty sure that Mary's messing around as usual, but that doesn't stop Natalie from taking her words seriously nevertheless. No, of course not. You know I always give 100% whenever I'm working on something. I'm just really fast like that, I swear. Even you have to admit that Natalie has always seemed like a very dependable girl. She has always addressed your every issue as soon as it came up to the best of her ability and never left you wanting for a better assistant. You don't find it difficult to believe that she's equally invaluable to Mary as an assistant as well. So wait, how come you're working today? I thought you were taking the day off. Oh no, I come to work on Saturdays as well. I just can't stay away from this place. Huh. I see. Is that why you didn't call me this morning? Upon hearing your innocent question, Natalie quite literally falls from the clouds. Oh my gosh, did I really forget about calling you again? I knew I was forgetting something. Gosh, I'm such a... The Labrador's self-depreciating words are interrupted by her boss, who dismisses her faults with a smile. Relax, Nats. It's the weekend. Isaac was just curious is all. Besides, he's not even bummed out about it. Isn't that right? The scientist gives you a knowing look, to which you reply with a simple nod. It's true. I was just a little surprised is all. You're fine, Nats. The canine tries to buy into your reassuring words, but it's clear that she's having a bit of trouble getting over her embarrassment. You decide to soften the mood with a joke or two to try and ease her up. So, you come to work even on weekends. Is that out of your own free will, or... It's not that hard to believe, is it? Mary laughs off her junior's remarks as well as your own incredulity. I assure you that both her and the rest of my colleagues here would gladly come back on Sunday as well, if only their body would allow them, but alas, everyone needs some rest every once in a while. Wow, you really love your work that much? Of course! I can't think of anything more exciting than this, honestly. You heard her. I assure you, a few among my scientists and engineers would even refer to what they're doing here as working. This isn't just any kind of job, you see. We're creating synthetics here, creating the future of humanity. This isn't something you do for money or fame or any sense of personal accomplishments. This is something we do because it's right, because everyone deserves to bear the fruits of our work. We're changing humanity for the better here, one innovation at a time, and knowing that is enough to bring us back to work time and time again. But I have to admit, the extras I make from overtime are pretty nice. As much as Mary likes to jest and mess around, aside from her fun comment at the end, this time she felt more honest than ever. You never thought that she or the rest of her staff would view this project in such a positive light. You already knew that everyone here cares deeply about the success of this technology, but you didn't expect their commitment to this job to be this strong. The future of humanity. That's what those people downstairs were saying too. Kind of puts your whole existence right now into perspective, truth be told. And it and it also helps you view Mary and her team in a new, much brighter light than ever before. Anyway, I think I bothered you guys for long enough. I'm sure you were having an important discussion before I interrupted you. Okay. Natalie interjects so loudly and unexpectedly you almost got startled yourself. You'd almost forgotten you were doing something important before Natalie arrived. Just goes to show how invested you sometimes get in your own thoughts. Oh, don't worry, we hadn't actually started yet. Mary was just about to explain me what the whole deal with the FBI was since they came to visit me yesterday and all. Ooh, that sounds important, alright? Well then, I'll just... The cat gently lays her hand on the canine's thigh before the latter can leave, effectively stopping her in her tracks somehow. Actually, why don't you join us for this conversation, Nats? I figured you might be interested given that this does involve Isaac here and all. Mary briefly turns to face you. You don't mind, do you, Isaac? Of course not. The more the merrier. Okay, now when I think about it, I think there does pose a question, a problem in synthetics. Okay, let's say, yeah, they have a soul. They're a humanity, you know, in a sense, they were somehow transferred into a, robotic body. How does population work? In a sense of repopulating, as they say. Wouldn't that stop the numbers from growing? No new people. Kinda different. I can't really say sad, because they could be happy for some. I don't know, right? That's a good question. Comment down below if you're still watching No More Future, Of course not. The more the merrier. You turn to look at your friend who's been awkwardly standing behind her boss ever since the beginning of this conversation. The Labrador appears a little hesitant, but also quite intrigued by the offer. Well, I was feeling a little bummed out the other day when Isaac was asking me all that stuff and I couldn't answer. Sure, I'll stay for the lecture. With that said, the young lady finally lets herself fall on top of one of the sturdy chairs, eager to listen to Mary's explanation. She almost feels like a college student, bent forward with her chest and arms as if trying to listen as hard as she can. It's kind of cute in a way, you have to admit. Even her boss is looking at her with a delighted smirk on her face. With everyone set, you decide to start the conversation yourself so as to properly break the ice. Well then, I guess I might as well begin by asking, just what in the world does the FBI want from me? The cat lady makes as if to answer your question but can ultimately do nothing but shake her head in defeat. I honestly can't say. They're secretive like that, those idiots. But I assure you, being a nuisance is nothing new. They have an entire department dedicated to breathing down Pandora's neck. For real? An entire department? I mean, when we think about the FBI, they have branches about this. They have, different people, groups of people that work on specific cases or jobs. Could be from classified stuff to murders, serial killers, or, threats to the state. Or maybe confidential information. But yeah, going back to it, you definitely hadn't heard of that before. Does the Bureau create specialized teams like that often, or is Pandora a special case? Imagine if they had an entire department dedicated solely to tracking synthetics like you. No, you definitely don't want to imagine that. Yup, they're persistent like that. Double checking our financial statements, vetting all our personnel, getting involved in things they shouldn't, as they always do. And you can guess who's the head of that department. Bradbury. You suppose that explains why he had all those agents and even a synthetic following his orders. Even so, you never could have imagined he'd turn out to be the head of a department of the FBI, much less one focused exclusively on Pandora. What sort of company are they to warrant special attention from the likes of him? Well, knowing their past, you can probably guess the reasons behind that. Still, why is he so interested in the synthetic project in me? No clue. They've never been this interested in something we made before, and I've been here for a long time. A long time? Sounds a little ambiguous, even by Mary's standards. Is that on purpose? How long are we talking, to be exact? About 40 years, give or take. 40 years? Just how old are you exactly? Now, Isaac, is that really a question you should be asking a lady? I'm also curious. How old is she? A wave of shame suddenly washes over your face as you realize how far you've taken your curiosity. You really ought to control yourself better than this. However, right as you're about to drop this little tangent entirely, she's 64 if you're really wondering. Natalie! I never said you could say that! The Siamese appears to be a little embarrassed over the brazen Labrador's words, whereas you're still busy trying to accept what you now know as a fact. You had a clue or two that Mary was a little advanced with her years, but 64? That's way older than you thought she'd be. I've gotta admit, I've never seen someone in her 60s look as youthful as you do. In spite of the awkwardness that washed over her face, Mary struggles to reply to her comment with a smile. What can I say? The miracles of modern plastic surgery. It's not quite the same as literally choosing your own body from scratch, but with enough money and a competent doctor, it's almost a perfect substitute. She says that, but I don't believe her. I bet she's a sorceress who casts a spell of infinite youth on herself. A sorceress? Isn't that a little unscientific coming from a researcher like her? Ha! I suppose that explains our successes with synthetics as well, wouldn't it? But let's take a break with all the jokes. We were supposed to be talking about the FBI. Oh, right. Sorry. The Siamese sighs and shakes her head as she returns to what she was saying earlier, a surprisingly pleased smile on her face in spite of the slight embarrassment she had to endure. Anyway, I previously said those jerks are a well-known thorn in our sides. They've been trying to get a hold of our synthetics ever since our first successful transition, with a little success. I guess that makes sense. All the others live in secluded and highly secured facilities across the globe, so imagine that it was easy to drive them away at every turn. Which, I guess explains why he's targeting me in particular. Now it's your turn to feel ashamed over being unable to figure that out. In hindsight, it should have been obvious. Then again, it could also be because of you beating those guys up the other day. That might have been enough to land you on his radar, assuming that Jasper was right about him being aware of that. Right, with your choice to resume living as a civilian, no wonder Bradbury is focusing all his efforts on you. Whatever they're meant for. You remember him trying to recruit you near the end of his speech to have you act as a double agent on his behalf, investigating Pandora in search of something. He definitely couldn't have chosen the worst method of going about doing that, for sure. Who in the world would assert his doubt in someone else's humanity before trying to convince him to work for him? Still, it might just be the conspiracy theorist lurking in you, but you don't feel comfortable with sharing this information with Mary yet. If there's a chance, however minuscule, that Pandora truly is hiding something, you should try to keep your cards hidden for the time being. Smart, Isaac. Very smart. Even if that means keeping things hidden from your friends. Alright, so I guess that explains why Bradbury's after me. But what about that other synthetic that was with him the other day? The other synthetic? Yeah, the other one. If I recall correctly, Bradbury called that one Harlan. What a creep that guy was, always silent, staring at you with those sharp eyes of his, like a guard dog, trained to maul any trespassers on sight. Even if the trespasser was Bradbury and his posse. Mary seems a little unsure about how to approach her question once again, seemingly clueless as to where to begin. Like Natalie said, keeping Bradbury off our synthetics has been easy so far for the most part, especially when he actually believed our excuses. But buying his lenience had a price. A price? Yeah. One day Bradbury showed up with an offer. He'd let us continue our experiments on synthetics with minimal supervision for the time being in exchange for a favor on our behalf. A favor? Yup, he wanted a synthetic of his own, and he was very meticulous with the details. He wanted the cutting-edge chases, add-ons fresh out of the oven, and even some custom mods to the black box. It's like he showed up with a straight-up grocery list. I had to think about it for a while, but eventually I had to accept. And that's how Harlan was born. An intriguing origin story, if nothing else. Then again, you already had a feeling that Harlan was not just another run-of-the-mill synthetic. I mean, the man was built for policing. He got that. He built different. Or it's built different. If Bradbury insisted that Mary turn him into an android in order for her to continue her duties undisturbed, he must have been a very important individual to the Saint Bernard. But just who in the world was he? You asked her friend for some clarifications, only to be met with a disappointed sigh of defeat. I really don't know. I only saw him, or what I assumed to be him, on the day of the actual transition. He was fairly old, maybe in his 40s or 50s, though his body was so battered by gunshot wounds and scars that I could hardly tell. He showed up with his own medical entourage, keeping him alive by any means necessary until the procedure was complete. The guy himself was out cold. Sounds like he had it even worse than you did. Not even you needed that sort of help on the days leading up the procedure, and by the time your condition worsened, there was hardly anything anyone could do to help. Then again, it's also possible that the extra medics were there just because he or Bradbury had the money to afford them. Did he ever say anything, even post-transition? Nope. Though he definitely can speak if you're wondering about that. I know that muzzle designs is a little ambiguous, but we're still testing things out back then. Oh, that sounds cool. I wasn't around back then, so I never got to see what old synthetics used to look like. You gotta show me some prototypes one of these days. As much as you share Natalie's enthusiasm on the topic, your mind's still too busy thinking about Harlan to worry about old synthetic body parts. So, how long ago did this happen? I'd say about 6 months ago. That long? What in the world has he been up to in the meantime? Again, no clue. I wish I could tell you more about this, but sadly that's all I know. The guy's been around Bradbury ever since he reawakened, though you can hardly tell he's there half the time, and Bradbury himself never talks about him either. The Saint Bernard did seem a little hesitant to talk about Harlan during the brief time you met him, though why that would be, you can't say. You doubt that it's just an effort to improve their chances at intimidating you? There must be some reason behind all this secrecy. That's alright. That's already more info than I had yesterday. I appreciate you being as thorough as you could and not hiding anything from me. The Siamese looks away from you for a moment, clearly still a little embarrassed from her conversation with you yesterday. Right. Either way, I don't know how much we can keep Bradbury away from you. Knowing the FBI, they'll just keep fabricating reasons to come check up on you or whatever until they're pleased. But you're gonna make it as hard as possible for them to do so, I take it. You can bet on that, Isaac. We are not letting those goons get their way with you, not a chance. We'll find a way to stop them from messing around with you eventually, I promise. And I'll do my best too. Last time you had to deal with that guy on your own, but the next time he shows up, I'll be there to give him a piece of my mind. The two girls' confident look and dead certain words do wonders to reassure you in spite of how uncertain you still feel about his problem. Bradbury, Harlan, the FBI. You definitely didn't account for them being involved when you chose to become a synthetic. Though there's still so much you don't know about them, you feel as though you'd understand things a little better now thanks to their help. You certainly feel relieved if only something else didn't happen since yesterday morning to inspire doubts and curiosity in you. Natalie's quick to notice a strange look in your eyes as you turn away from them. What's wrong, Isaac? Is something else bothering you? No point in hiding it, you suppose? The encounter with that strange entity from earlier in the day still plays over and over in the back of your mind, demanding your attention. You still don't know anything about that monster, about what it is and what it can do. Maybe you should ask Mary about it, now that you have a chance. But actually, yeah. Can I ask you something completely unrelated? Mary raises an eyebrow at your query, a little surprised by the look on your face as you turn towards her. Sure, I'm all ears. Right, well, you briefly ponder just how much you should share about what happened with your friends. Or with your friend, sorry. Opening up with I saw a weird shadow demon on the train today, and that really freaked me out. Might not be the best way to approach this topic. You decide to be a little more vague so as to not give the Siamese or the Labrador any weird ideas about you. What do you know about abilities? The canine's eyes widen to disproportionate amounts as she tries to process her question, and Mary's aren't too far behind because they're on the scientific kind, the robotic kind. I guess abilities are scientific in a way as well. When you really think about it, we could attach that in. Yeah, I was about to go full on comic book nerd mode there, but I was like, no, it's gonna eat time. I didn't expect this sort of a sudden change from such a simple question, so you try to ask the two of them if they're all right, only for your handler to swiftly beat you to the punch. Oh, hold on, don't tell me. You develop an ability? What? That is not what you were trying to convey at all, so much for not giving them any weird ideas, but that would be pretty cool. Unsynthetic. Getting an ability, wouldn't that solidify that they are... I guess there's two possibilities. If in the future he does get an ability or not, I don't know. Either one, he's a human. Gets ability equals human. Or abilities are tied to the consciousness or the brain. Either way, let's get back to the topic. Look, I think you... Oh my gosh, that's so cool. We've been looking for something like that for... No, I never said that. Takes a while for you to calm your enthusiastic assistant down together with Mary's help. As disappointed as the feline is to hear your denial, at least she didn't react quite as badly as Natalie did. Good lord, Nats. Don't just assume things like that. Jesus. So sorry. I didn't mean to jump the gun so quickly. But that sounds cool, man. A human transferred to a robotic body gains abilities. Like... abilities, not robotic ones. Already have that. The girl seems thoroughly dejected in a way you've never seen her before. The look in her eyes is like that of a kid who's been looking forward to visiting a theme park for years, only to be denied at the last minute. Damn, she just got edged by Isaac right there. Edging. It's actually rather depressing to look at. You didn't mean to sour her mood so much. Either way, I'm sorry for giving you guys the wrong impression. Nonsense, Isaac, you're totally fine. Yeah, like you said, it's my fault for jumping to conclusions too fast. Which again, sorry about that, I didn't mean to scare you. It's just that, well, we've been waiting for something like that to happen for so long, even You've been waiting for a synthetic with an ability to show up. The woman quietly nods at you, too busy pondering to reply directly, because I think that really hits the bill right there. Go to Senate. Hey, I think they're humans with robotic bodies. Because they got abilities. Doesn't that mean something? The woman quietly nods at you, too busy pondering to reply directly. Can synthetics even have abilities? Nobody knows, but it'd solve all of our problems if they could. Solve all your problems? What do you mean? The woman hesitates to answer, once again lost in thought. You can't tell whether she's having trouble recalling the information she wants to share or whether it is so complex that she has to figure out how to convey it properly. It's a pretty convoluted topic, truth be told. How about you answer, Natalie? The young Labrador is at first surprised by her boss's request, but she ultimately agrees with a beaming look on her face. Okay, I like it. Look at that. That's the same look. You look at Nats. That's the same look a dog is when, a dog is happy. Eyes are, the eyebrows or, the kind of goes up. The eyes are like happy, excited. The mouth, cheeks, puffed up. With a big smile. Yeah, pretty cute. Of course, you can always count on me for these kinds of things. Huh, so I take it you're the resident expert on abilities or something. Pretty much, yeah, I studied them in depth at college for some extra credit, so I can give you a brief overview if you'd like me to. So she's somewhat knowledgeable on abilities. You can't say you're too surprised, truth be told. After all, she had to have learned how to answer your and your cousin's questions yesterday from somewhere. You have to admit, this is pretty intriguing. Go right on ahead, I'm curious to see where this goes. Awesome, and thanks. So to answer your question, we should probably start from a century or so ago. A century? Why would she? No, we have a feeling that you know exactly where the feline wants to land. I've noticed that a lot of analysis or papers or research YouTube videos or explanation videos goes back to the history of a thing. Could be a movie, could be a game, maybe it's based on something real, so they go for the real history. That's their first topic there. Or critic reviews, critic reviews or criticisms I've noticed that first part of the video, they go and find a standard of how they're gonna review these things, and it's based on a theory about this or a book about that or by this person, blah blah blah. Yeah, I kind of get it because it solidifies that you're kind of legitimate, or there's basis on what you're trying to say, on your criticisms and whatnot. But yeah, going back to the game, kids keep saying yeah. Starting from all the way to the shift, I imagine. The young woman smiles before continuing her speech, evidently content with her foreknowledge of the topic. Yes, all the way there. I assume you learned about that in school at some point or another. Only the bare minimum. Our history curriculum slowed down considerably after the turn of the millennia, or rather sped up so fast it was impossible to learn anything. Mary can't help but reply to her comments in disgust. Oh, of course it would. Public school is just the worst, isn't it? Look who's talking. You never even attended public school, or any school for that matter. She's a genius. She didn't? But then, how did Mary become this smart? Probably not something you should ask in the middle of an entirely separate conversation, you reason, and Mary appears to have figured that out as well. Ha, touche. But I should shut up before I let this rant degenerate even further. I don't want to steal the spotlight from Natalie again. After some more huffing and pouting, as is typical of the extremely emotional Labrador, Natalie quickly returns to where she left off. Lord Dump! Well, seeing as though you're a little unprepared, would you mind a quick refresher? Of course, the floor is yours. Awesome, I'm happy to see you so excited. Now I know this is gonna sound a little dramatic, but everything sort of happened in the span of less than a minute. Humans all over the world suddenly and inexplicably mutated into human-animal hybrids, what we now refer to as humans. And when I say suddenly and inexplicably, I truly mean that. The incident is one of the greatest mysteries of our generation for a reason. I see. Do you know what caused it? I think I know. God once said, yeah, furries. Not bad, I guess. As long as people aren't that degenerate. As most furries are. Depends on the person, once again. Nobody does. Or maybe God said, this will be a funny prank. Humans don't really need unless they evolve into these animals with their, immunity to certain kinds of diseases. Well, that makes sense. Maybe the body just said, you know what, screw it. I'll roll the random dice on whatever animal I'll be. Hopefully it's a mammal. Weird enough, they're dragons, so I guess they exist in real world. In this world. Nobody does. There are quite a few theories as to how it originated, but none of them were ever proven. Some say a science project gone terribly haywire, others a virus of unknown origin, some still believe in alien intervention or in a natural phenomenon similar to global warming or an ice age. But these are all theories and none of them were ever confirmed. You eagerly await further elucidations from your canine handler, but after some time spent in total silence, you realize at some point that this is literally it. That's it? That's all you can say about it? Not even you can hide the dissatisfaction in your voice right now, and neither can Natalie. Hey, if we knew anything more than about what happened, it wouldn't be a mystery. I'm sorry if you're expecting more from me. If I knew anything else, I'd tell you. So it would seem if this is truly it, then it's not too far from what you learned about the shift in class yourself. You always wondered what it must have felt like while growing up to one day wake up and realize that your body is now totally different from before. Or maybe to realize that while going to school or to work, or while looking at your mom or your dad or your child, it must have been a nightmare. You try to get back to... Damn, Isaac has high empathy. Pros and cons. Pros? You're morally a good person, in a way. Cons? You're too nice. Or no, you're too kind. Not nice. You're too kind. It's kind of okay if you're both, but yeah. You try to go back to your conversation with Natalie, hoping to leave those dark thoughts behind. So what does that have to do with abilities? Well, after the shift occurred, it didn't take long for abilities to pop up as well. The realization was slow, as this change only affected a very small amount of people, mutants. When once these users figured out that they had superpowers, the rest of the world soon found out as well. That too doesn't sound like it went over well. The past sure is a scary place. All of a sudden, Mary butts in the conversation once again. Well, we can definitely say that the shift and abilities have one thing in common. Neither of them makes one lick of sense. There are no biological or genetic explanations behind why a person is born looking like this, Or that animal, real or fantastical, is practically a lottery. That's true. None of my relatives look anything alike, and I can say the same for most of my friends. Well, no exceptions aside, but even then, siblings like Nemarin and Yume, looking nearly identical to one another, are extremely rare. Wow, that's interesting lore right there. You're a random furry. I'm not destroying this here. That's interesting. That's like, comment down below. What kind of animal hybrid would you want to be? Like, just appearance-wise. I'm not gonna add in like complexities like, oh, you have these abilities. You know, when you're like a lizard or something, you can climb walls. Going back to the game, that's the thing. To this day, the logic behind the system continues to elude us. And the same can be said about abilities. Like one's outward appearance, it's impossible to predict at birth whether someone has an ability or not. And unless they involve some changes to their user's body, they're not even detectable by modern instruments. They're certainly real, but to our tools, they might as well not be. So ability is an anomaly even by modern scientific standards. You can't help but wonder how prudent it was to focus on exploring synthetics before abilities or the shift. But maybe that's exactly why the Labrador brought this up to begin with. Is this why you're so interested in them? Both Mary and Natalie smile at your fast deduction. My personal theory is that both of these things don't have a biological explanation but a metaphysical one. Metaphysics. The mind? That's the logic that dictates whether one is born a cat or a dog with or without ability isn't stored in their brain or DNA but someplace... Yeah. When we think about the human consciousness, usually it's physical, correct? But we're talking about the non-physical. When you were a baby, you don't really remember much. Hell, you don't really think that much. Not much of a philosophical thing. But now you think about a lot. You think about a lot of things. You could say you are awake. You woke up one day. I'm not talking about that woke stuff, but the word woke. You woke up one day. You now feel embarrassed. You now feel certain things and think certain things. Or, what she's talking about is someplace entirely, a different plane of existence. Metaphysical explanation, something that resides on a plane other than the physical one? Yup. Does it truly mean you're thinking the soul? Yup, aren't you? Yeah, the cat quietly chuckles under her breath as her grin grows bigger and bigger, evidently feeling rather excited by this theory. It'd explain everything, wouldn't it? Including but not limited to yourself. After all, if a synthetic can retain their ability post-transition or develop a new one altogether, then surely that means that their identity was retained as well. And that would prove once and for all to synthetics and humans alike that the transition really works. Right on, Isaac. That's precisely it. It's not one of our top priorities right now, but I'm sure you understand how finding a synthetic that can use abilities would boost our research to the next level. Honestly, I'm surprised I didn't think you'd catch up this quick with this reasoning of mine, given how unorthodox the logic behind it is. You caught up with Mary's reasoning rather quickly, true, but that doesn't make this hypothesis of hers any less insane. But, I mean, philosophy, the mental... If you look at science, a lot of these things started from being insane, you know? Like, I'm not talking about people that are insane, maybe a little bit cuckoo, but them being enlightened somehow, and then somehow proving it, or maybe their successor or some completely different person got interested and proved it, and there's like, yeah, the man before me, the founder, he legit. It wasn't fake. Things like that. Hell, we didn't even know before what energy was, or that matter cannot be cut, or cannot be destroyed or created, but it can be converted to something. If you build up, I mean, that's how humans are, right? Okay, trying to connect the shift abilities and even your very soul to some metaphysical realm beyond your understanding is something you expected religious parents to do. Definitely not a real scientist like Mary. Not like this is entirely unordinary from the mad researcher before you. Of all the things she's striving to prove, this might not even be the craziest. Not like it even matters at this point. You already did entrust her with your very existence for the sake of this project. This feels like a philosophy class. Like, prove to me that you are you. How do you prove the soul exists? Right? How do you measure that? Kinda difficult. If this is what it takes to prove to both yourself and the world that you exist, well, so be it. Be it. That's it. I imagine that if you're asking about this, you haven't had much luck so far. Yup. From what I've heard, even those who develop abilities before their transition have yet to recover them. Which probably doesn't do wonders for their morale if I had to guess. Which also means maybe it's a physical one, which would be pretty messed up. Yeah, if I reacted so poorly to losing my natural senses, I can imagine what they must have felt upon realizing that they lost another important part of themselves. Hey, we don't know if they lost it yet. Things might just work a little differently between humans and synthetics is all. We're in no rush. We'll figure all this stuff out in time. We do have eternity to play with after all. That's true indeed. You always forget that your life isn't on a deadline anymore. Things that are unclear now might not stay that way forever. The march of science is an endless one, and you'll have the opportunity to witness it firsthand. You're not sure whether the prospect of that makes you excited or afraid. All of a sudden, the Siamese suddenly sprawls her arms to the sky as though she just awoke. Anyway, that's everything that needs to be said for now, man. I'm exhausted. Feels like I've been talking for 2 days already. Hey, I did most of the talking at the end there. Besides, even before I took over for you, that was barely 20 minutes. And before that, half an hour at best. Hey, don't act like that's not a big deal. Human throats weren't designed to be used for this long. Whoa. Let's look at Jasper. His speeches last forever, and now he sounds like a villain from a Saturday morning cartoon. You do recall the Drake's voice sounding rather dry the last few times you met him. Does he truly speak as often as the feline claims he does? He's a CEO. Lots of meetings. Lots of meetings. Schedule's always packed. And little time to do what your personal stuff you want to do, you know? Nonetheless, it's clear that Mary's done with this topic for the time being. A little bit of a shame. You were hoping that she could answer a few more questions for you. So I take it you need a break. And a long one too. Maybe we can continue this conversation at the lunch table somewhere after a bottle of water or two. That could work. It wouldn't be too uncouth to mention that stuff relating to the monster you saw earlier in the day at the lunch table. Might even be able to pass it off as something you read on the video news or something, so she doesn't get suspicious. But you still need to tell her about Nem's request from yesterday. You can't forget to ask her if it's alright to live stream with your friend before the end of the day. Oh, we're going out for lunch! I'm so down for that. I'm practically starving here. Funny about talking for 30 minutes, this video has been going on for 40 minutes. Oh right, lunch. And some of you know, before I do binges on these recordings. After this, I get a 5-minute break, drink some water, maybe just, I don't know, just calm down, relax, watch a video, a short, and then go back to recording. Yeah. So you got so caught up with your plans you once again forgot what you were just about to do. Well, you know, I'm not exactly hungry, but I'd love to join you girls if you all have me. Of course, I've been looking forward to this ever since meeting you the other day, and so has Mary. The Siamese turns the other way to avoid meeting your gaze, an embarrassed smirk on her face. Now, let's not get too excited. We still need to decide the restaurant we're going to. A restaurant, huh? Can't say I know many around these parts. Well, you won't be starving for choices, I assure you. This side of the town has famous restaurants with backgrounds from all over the world. The French place is always a great choice, but I'm personally feeling very Thai today. Then again, there was an Ethiopian eatery that just opened the other day. So many choices indeed, half of which you never got the chance to try back when you were alive. How are you supposed to choose? The moment you settle on one cuisine, it's as though you're forsaking all the others. Or maybe you're just being overly dramatic again. What if we just went and grabbed a pizza instead? A pizza? Wait, that's right. That's what we agreed we'd have on our first meal together, didn't we? Yup, I'm so glad you remember. Like I said, I've been looking forward to this moment. My mom always told me that you can learn so much from someone just by watching how they eat. I really hope you're not gonna spend all your time staring at me while your pizza gets cold. She's probably just messing around, your reason, but the thought of someone watching you eat from up close just feels wrong for some reason. Mary, on the other hand, finds Natalie's remark and your response absolutely hilarious. Goodness, you two really are children sometimes. Not like I'm complaining. I always did have a soft spot for kids. Again, with these jokes about your youth. Even coming from someone her age, it still feels a little weird for some reason because she looks pretty young. She looks like she's more of a oldest age, in her 40s. Youngest, in her 30s. Mid-30s. Either way, at least she seems fine with your choice of location. So, pizza's good with you too? Of course, you should know I don't really mind where I eat so long as the food tastes good. My biggest issue would be if they start throwing a hissy fit as soon as they realize you're with us. But I'm sure we'll find a way to get them to look the other way. That would be bothersome indeed. You can still recall how people were looking at you when you went to Daphne's cafe yesterday. Hopefully Mary's right, and things will calm down as soon as people realize she's with you. Well then, if we're all set, we can start heading out. I already found a perfect place too. It's a super sweet Italian place on Eves Avenue called... Going somewhere? Hey, it's the boss! A familiar dragon appears from the stairs leading to the second floor, taking all three of you by surprise. His expression is as serious as ever, but his pose that notes an even greater level of impatience than usual. Obviously, Mary's not all too pleased to see your superior here. What are you doing here? I was looking for you, of course, and as usual, I had to scour the whole building to find you. And you didn't think to look here first. Now Drake rolls his eyes at the Siamese ironic query, evidently not in the mood to deal with her unique brand of humor. It was fourth on the list. First was your office, then the meeting room on the 12th floor, then the lobby. I'd rather have found you anywhere else, honestly. This place creeps me out. Judging from the woman's expression, she seems to have taken that last remark of his rather personally. Who does this guy think he is to dismiss her entire work so rudely? You already knew that Jasper could be difficult, but... Isaac, remember, he owns this whole thing. Or he's keeping it afloat. He's the captain of this ship, in a way. Either way, I'll need to borrow you in the synthetic for an important meeting right now. And that's where I end this video on an important meeting, I guess. Hopefully you liked the video. Subscribe, support this channel, or watch this video up to the end. And once again, any view or any subscription that you didn't watch it, but you saw it and a little bit, and you were like, I'm gonna subscribe. Thanks for that. Big thanks. And sorry if I don't reply on the comments so much. Outside of YouTube, stuff happens. And then when I look at the comment, if it's a question or a problem that requires knowledge of the past, I'm gonna have to dig through it. I might not be able to answer it. Other than that, thanks for watching. Good luck on whatever you're doing. Have a good night's rest, I guess. Bye.